that consistency, that is what customers and clients are going to want to see again and again and again.
Hey guys, welcome to the Grow Rogue podcast. We're here at the very beginning of 2025, and we're excited to be talking to you. We're going to be putting out a lot more content here in the new year, so we hope that you are subscribed to the channel and that you're following us on all the different social platforms, and most importantly, that you are subscribed to the Grow Rogue newsletter. If you haven't done that, go over to growrogue.co and just leave your email address, and you'll get updates about every bit of new content that we put out. Thanks for joining us, and let's go ahead and get started.
Today, we're going to talk about what if you already have a marketing team, and more specifically, how to get your team on board, how to create a marketing strategy that makes sense to your team, and how to level up their skills and knowledge, and how to manage growth and challenges as we go. So those are the problems we're going to solve today. Okay, so here's a problem. How do you get your marketing team on board with new ideas?
Most important thing is you cannot blindside your team with a new strategy or a consultant that you've brought in or a new agency. They need to know about it as soon as the planning starts. You bring them in the room, you talk to them about the goals and objectives that you have for that year, that month, whatever that period of time is. And then you talk about the resources that you might be bringing on, whether that's people, whether that's new systems, new tools, so that the team is involved from day one.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is first establishing swim lanes. Because a lot of times roles, especially in small businesses, they overlap, and we get brought into a lot of teams that someone's already doing that job that they're bringing us in, and they might have a slight system or things like that, but we come in and we say, hey, let us take that from you, and they're very happy about it. It's never no, this is mine, because they wouldn't have hired us if they wanted to keep it 100%. So going in and just establishing those swim lanes first, and clear expectations of everyone, because you have to see the bigger picture and where we're going, and I think that's really important.
So from my perspective, I've actually seen I've had a little bit different experience, right? Because I've done so much work as an outside marketing consultant, and I've been brought in, and the meeting begins, and CEO or the business owner says, hey guys, remember that stuff we talked about doing? Well, I just brought in this guy, Reade, and he's going to be in charge of it all, right? And then I see a bunch of faces where people are looking around and they're like, well, who is this guy? What does that mean for my job? What am I going to be doing as a part of this? And so when that has happened in the past, it's really put the whole team, myself included, in a really awkward position. So after kind of living through that a few times, I did see that what you described definitely helps, which is saying, look, everybody, I'm not here to take anybody's job. I'm not here to replace anybody. In fact, what I want to do is make sure that each and every one of you are in the position to do the thing that you do best most of your time. And usually when we establish what that is, and then when they all feel comfortable that no one's going to take their job away, no one's going to take their role away, but they actually are going to be able to do more of the things that they like and they're good at, everybody feels more comfortable. Everybody starts to get on board with the program, and they feel like they're on a team that is actually moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, you're referencing a lot of consulting. That seems to be very true for consulting. I can see it in bigger organizations that we've come in that people think we're going to steal their job or take their job. But to me, it's all about the onboarding process. That is why we're so big on onboarding process, because we don't want to just come in their first team meeting and be like, okay, well, this is what we do.
Right.
It is very important for establishing clear swim lanes in that onboarding process, because, I mean, that's why it's so in our system right now, when you get a prospect, it's healthy for me to come in that call before they close to kind of set that expectation. And we've met with several other of their teammates and things like that. So when we come in, it's not this, why are they here? What are they doing? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the great benefit that you and I have had as having come into, I'm going to call it our new business, right?
Hmm.
Like 5 years ago, the business completely shed its old skin when you came on board. We had the benefit of my experience of doing it a lot of different ways and seeing what does and doesn't work. And then you coming in from a systems background and a systems mindset saying, well, let's make sure that the system incorporates the things that work and excludes the things that don't work. And then, of course, over the last 5 years, we've learned even more together about what works and what doesn't work. And that's what's made, you mentioned it, our new onboarding system that avoids all those problems and gets us started much quicker.
Yeah, I also think it's easy to say, let's set clear expectations. Everyone comes in and everyone wants that. But what's so challenging is everyone, both parties, have their own set of expectations, their own processes. So you're basically combining two processes, and you got to say, well, which one's going to win? And that is why we have learned, well, we do fit well in organizations, but we do have our own systems and processes. And what works really well, especially for an agency like ours, to come in and say, like, you don't worry about this. We will take this. Here's the approvals. Here's the published dates. Here's the due dates, things like that. So it completely takes it off them. Because when you just say, well, we want newsletters, we want social posts, well, we can't leave them in the dark because they're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to be stepping on people's toes. So I think it's so very important early on that you define clear expectations, but you also have a leader. And in this case, it's Reade, the strategist, who comes in and he sets those clear expectations. So there's we're not leaving any guesswork to the client. And because I think a lot of times there are several people in organizations that are very organized, but what they lack is that one clear leader. What's the phrase? Like there's too many chefs in the kitchen. When everyone kind of thinks that they're owning the project, there's no clear leader. And I think that is what I've seen time and time again fail. So you come in and you kind of, and that's why the consulting it's a great leverage, because you come in as a authority, you come in as a leader, and then it kind of runs the entire team on both sides.
I mean, I'd agree because I think it allows us to, without any perception of ulterior motives, to come in and say, look, this is what we see.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to do is we're going to build a marketing strategy that makes sense for this team, right? Given the skills and the strengths of the people in this room, and then of course the assets of the brand, the business, meaning what advantages and competitive advantages does it have in the marketplace? And then we're going to build something based on that. And then we establish so much trust when we do that, that if the time does come, which it often does, where we need to bolster their marketing team with some of our team's capabilities, well, it's a very natural progression to do that. Say, okay, well, now we need video, right? So we need Rogue Pine to come in and help us to produce a podcast or a video series. Really simple to do that because everybody's already behind the vision, they're behind the strategy, and they're united behind a singular leader.
So that leads us to the next point. So how do you create a marketing strategy that works for your team? We all know that there's several ideas. I mean, we have an abundance of knowledge, but how do we make a marketing strategy that actually works within the team, that is made for it's not a one size fits all. It is tailored to that organization.
So you've got to understand the strengths and the skill sets that the team has within itself already. You also need to include in that planning the assets that the business brings to the table, or the brand, right? What competitive advantages does it have in the marketplace? What history does it have? What technologies or what elements of the product or service already set itself apart? You pile all those things into the middle of the table, and then you start arranging them in the ways that make sense, right? We know we want our potential customers to understand this about us, right? And we do so by creating content. And the people that are going to create content are these people because they have these particular skills, and so on and so forth. So you build that around the team and around the business and the brand that you've got. And then you put yourself in a position to not have a bunch of people that are trying to fill an unnatural role, but instead you've got something where everybody feels like they can do the thing they do best.
Yeah, so I'll speak from experience from the ops standpoint, and it goes back to the onboarding. So realistic goals. I'm such a realist, right? We got Reade the visionary, who can really talk big picture on where we want to go, and that's great. But today we have to figure out what is realistic, the goals, because again, everyone can throw out, hey, let's check these KPIs, but it doesn't make any sense if the goal has nothing to do with that KPI. They look great. Oh, my video got 73,000 views. That's wonderful. But if we're going for, something that has nothing to do with views, well, that's irrelevant, right? So we got to make sure all the KPIs are aligned, but the goals are realistic. That's what I'm big on. I get very nervous, and a red flag goes up when a client or a prospect is like, well, I just want to go viral, or I want to have 1,000 or 100,000 views or 1,000 subscribers in the first 6 months. And you're just like, okay, what? And then Reade's actually really good at this. So why? Why do you want 100,000 views? I just want it. Well, that sounds great, but that is not guaranteed to get you a client. Sure, you might say, okay, well, more eyeballs, right? We're giving ourselves a fighting chance, but that's not always true. Reade had one almost hit 1 million and nothing came of it. We've had several go a lot and not necessarily something come from it. So we got to be really realistic. I'm big on using people to their highest and best, right? So when we sit down at our onboarding or a prospect call, things like that, we go around and we find out, and typically they're already in this role that they're best fit for, but sometimes you'll find like, oh, okay, we just had a client come on and it's like they had their administrative team writing newsletters. Well, that's great. They were doing fantastic, but they even said, well, we're just not very consistent. The newsletters were wonderful, fantastic, but if you're not getting them out consistently and things like that, subscribers are going to fall. So they just needed our help with consistency. That's what we brought. And so that, to me, is just using people at their highest and best. That person was best used for administrative tasks and keeping her boss, which was also our boss, their schedule intact and everything like that. Well, we took over the content creation. So just establishing those what people are best at, I think, is very early on. It's a key to success.
What happens when you've got a strategy in place and maybe the strategy preceded us? Let's say that happened, right? And so we're brought in, we're plugging into a strategy that requires input from the team outside of us, but the skills are just not there amongst the team members. The example you gave of being brought in and then seeing that the administrative, team or an admin assistant is tasked with creating social content or writing newsletters, right? That's a super common experience, actually. Now, in the example you gave earlier, it worked really well because, the decision was made that, hey, I want, by our client, hey, I want that off of my admin team and I want that onto you guys. That's what you do well. It's not always that cut and dry. A lot of times we get brought in and there's somebody that's kind of already entrenched in that role, but they're way outside of their depth. And so then the question is, how do we go about upskilling the existing marketing team so that they can do the job that, let's say, that they want to do, but they just don't have the skills to do? What are the ways we recommend going about that?
Well, I think that is where we team up. We partner up, and two brains is better than one. We have several clients that do this, that provide, especially our SaaS clients, they know that stuff better than we can. And it's just not a good use of our time to go and learn all of that, right? To niche ourselves in that. And it's a better use of time for us to, this is why we're so big on templates. It's a better use of our time to build out these templates, build out the structure around, and let the client or that person in that role put in the articles, find the research, the things like that. Then together we can make this very, very effective content calendar, schedule, and things like that.
That's a good point. That's going in a slightly different direction than I expected, but I'm glad you said that, because that is something that we have done a lot that has worked well, right? Because let's take the example of the administrative assistant that's being asked to be a part of marketing. Well, what are those types really good at? Research, organization, communication, being on time, right? Hitting deadlines. That's great. We can leverage that skill set without having to put them in a position of having to be creative, having to come up with new ideas. Those things are really difficult typically for people that are in that role. So that's where we work together. We say, look, this is a template. Like you said, this is a structure for, say, an article or a newsletter. We need you, administrative assistant, to go and fill in these blanks with that research, with that organization that you're so good at. Get it to us. We can take that research, take that content, reorganize and repurpose that, add some creativity, add some marketing knowledge and skill set to turn that into a marketing asset. That's a really, really great point. I did not think of it that way, but yeah, we've done that a ton over the years.
Yeah, I do think the pinging back and forth we can use to our advantage, because time and time again we see that the admin assistant, things like that, they don't want to be the creative ones. They want to be the organizational ones, which is great because we have a team of creatives. So it does work really well. But I do, I think early on I used to get so discouraged where we couldn't possibly know their business better than them. Well, that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
The more I do this, that's not the point. A lot of businesses, they just lack consistency. It's not they don't lack. I mean, when we get a new client and they give us all their assets, we are always astonished of how much stuff they already have. How you can repurpose that and use it, frankly, because they haven't even had time to use it. But it's not a lack of content. It's just a lack of structure in their business. And that is why systems are so important to organizations, because that consistency, that is what customers and clients are going to want to see again and again and again. It's a proven thing. So consistency, my number one.
I completely agree. I think our ability to establish marketing operations, right? Markups, right? Marketing operations into a business that may have a lot of, at least with their internal staff, they may have a lot of knowledge and experience in that industry. Why wouldn't we leverage that as much as we can? So you come in with your operations mind, I come in with my marketing mind, and then we take all of their skill, knowledge, and experience about their industry, about their customer, about their product and service. And that's a great, great combo. Works super well.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, the thing that you can learn is, if you don't have a marketing team and you don't hire someone out, sit down with the people that you have told these to get it done, right? Like to get the newsletter, to get the social post, sit down with them, make realistic guidelines. That is the one thing that I have seen business owners, even people in ops, like they just give unrealistic deadlines. And I think it just puts so much pressure on the team. So if you're a leader, do not put unrealistic expectations on your team, because they just crumble. And it's not because they can't do it or they don't want to. It's just not good leadership. Sit down and really, really give clear communication and clear timelines, and make sure their understanding of the timeline fits within them too. Because I think leadership is not about just telling people when something's due. It's working with your team, making sure they feel comfortable and that they agree and understand when things are due.
So how do you make sure that your marketing team is equipped with the right skills and abilities to implement the marketing strategy?
Build learning into your plan. Reed did this to me when I came on. So there are so many free resources out there. There's online courses, there's certificates, there's workshops, there's custom work. There's so many things out there. And Reed did this specifically when I came on, and he showed me these workshops, and I took these workshops. I took these courses of just learning marketing better. They're everywhere. I say, give it to your team. They need it. They will thank you for it. And it builds an overall better team. And when you're all on the same page, when you all can talk marketing terms, it's just better for the whole organization. Yeah, investing in your team, it does so many things. It's not just going to make them better, right? But it invests in them. And when, as a person who has played the doer of tasks, it really, even before I worked with Reed, I worked at an organization, and that leadership decided to invest in me. And not only did I learn better, but I felt worthy, right? I felt, wow, they're investing in me as an employee. It comforted me, right? It didn't have the feeling that I was going to get fired in the next couple of weeks. They were investing in me, and what did I want to do? I wanted to show them back what I'd learned. So it goes both ways. It's this teamship that, and this bonding almost of like, hey, you invested in me, you spent money on this. I'm going to show you that I can level up, and I'm going to be what you need, right? That is, to me, that is the best thing you can do for your employers, your contractors, things like that. Invest in them.
Well, I mean, such a good point. I mean, let's think about this in business terms, right? Business owner to business owner watching this, right? So there's a reason there's a reason we have the term human capital. So each person in your team, you're spending, I mean, in 2025 dollars, you're spending, close to $100,000 on each full-time employee that's on a marketing team, especially when you consider things like insurance and taxes and a place to put them if they're in an office, or at least equipment and all that kind of stuff. Why wouldn't you invest into their development as a professional, right? You're increasing the value of that human capital. And as Nikki was saying, you're giving a signal to them that they are valuable enough to have made that investment. So they're going to want to show that increased value back and to say, hey, look, I am worth it. I'm worth more of an investment. I'm worth even more of a role in the business. And that's when we've really seen marketing teams grow, meaning grow from within and be able to do more and better and get those better results over time.
Yeah, it's all about making that person feel more confident and empowered. You cannot go wrong when people feel that way. And I promise you it will benefit your business. So, how do we manage growth and challenges as we go? We are obviously a small business. And so challenges come up literally every day, and sometimes multiple times a day. So, how do we manage that growth?
All right. So this to me is the X factor that does not get talked about enough. So we talk a lot, and there is a lot that is talked about, right, on the internet about do this marketing thing, right? This tactic, this strategy, this type of content. And then we're kind of left with, okay, well, hope that works, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you start to implement a new strategy, might be the most brilliant strategy that anybody has ever, come up with. Well, eventually you're going to hit what we call reality, and you're going to find out that there's some unexpected results. And that could be any number of things. That could be unexpected results in terms of the actual response from the marketplace, right? People didn't like that particular piece of content like we thought they would, or they liked this more than we thought they would and we're kind of surprised, or the thing that we thought would work just isn't working. What do we do next? So the ability to determine based on the limited data that we have and to then come up with a way to pivot is that X factor. So you've got to have you've got to have this skill yourself, which admittedly is born out of years of experience and trial and error and learning, or you've got to have somebody on the team that you can trust to be able to navigate that. And let me go ahead and tell you, that is a really challenging role for anybody to have because by its very nature, they are navigating uncharted waters. This isn't use your academic knowledge of marketing and come up with a cool idea. This is look at the things that are happening in the real world and that are happening with our strategy as it is being implemented and figure out how to adjust things on the fly so that we get either more of the good results that we are getting or that we improve on the maybe not so good results that we were getting before. You got to have somebody like that on your team.
Yeah, I would also add to that and say don't put all your marketing dollars in one basket. We are big on using multiple different facets to get there, right? So what I mean by that is literally don't just do ads. Don't just do SEO. Don't just do newsletters. Don't just do blogs. Don't just have a website. We've spoken to people in the past that they're just like, we built them a beautiful website and then they were done. Just the website. That's great. Now you have a great looking website, but no one sees it. No one can see it. It's don't just do one thing. And I think that helps with some, we call it growing pains. They're a good thing, right? It's a good problem to have if you're growing fast or if you're growing at a great pace. Like you're going to have problems. You're going to run into things that said, just like Reade said, we have been so sure, like, this is going to work.
Yeah.
This is absolutely going to work.
Right.
100% going to work. We do it. It doesn't work. And then it's just like, I've heard YouTubers say this, like that video I was going to put out, like I knew it was going to go viral. And then it was like their least expected one went viral. Like you can just not peg these algorithms. So what do? We do multiple things and then we test the data. That's what we do. We're not SEO experts. We're not ad experts. We are a marketing agency who can do all things, and then we narrow it down and we say, hey, this had really good results. Let's put more things to this. And we always tell our clients, we don't start with ads. We start with organic, because if that gets traction organic, we've won. Now it's easy. Now we just put money behind it. We put dollars behind it. And look, what do you know? It worked.
Yeah, this is one of, there's like 3 quotes that come to mind. They're some of my favorite ever. One of them is an old military maxim that says, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And another one that's even, I think even by the great philosopher Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And so Nikki's totally right. If you put all your eggs into one basket, we're going to run, and this is why I balked at if you were doing marketing, if you were involved in marketing in about like 2018, everything was about Facebook ads to a funnel, and then all your dreams will come true. Well, then Facebook changed their algorithm a little bit, and all of those millions of dollars that companies were pouring into Facebook very binary, ads, Facebook to a funnel, to a landing page to get people to convert, nothing else going on, no organic content, no ongoing nurture strategy, nothing. They just fell flat overnight. And so whether it's an algorithm change or whether it's just the content not resonating, if you put all those eggs into one basket, you are super, super exposed to risk. And so, yeah, we definitely recommend a little bit more of a diversified strategy, especially in the beginning when you're just figuring out what works.
Yeah, and that brings not a quote, but an image of the throwing the spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah.
We don't do that. Now, at the beginning, yes, we try many different options, but it's not, you got to hear the difference. We are not just saying, let's just do ads for 3 months and let's see if that worked. No. we're doing things simultaneously to see, hey, okay, that outperformed that. Why? Read all the time. I think on our last podcast talked about subject lines, right? We are constantly testing certain things with, I mean, we even do this with our own newsletter, images versus no images, links versus no links, subject line versus no subject line. And if you're doing it all by yourself, that's really, really difficult to test all different variables in 1 month. And so that is why it is advantageous to have a marketing team and a marketing agency that has tested things before and knows what works. And again, I'll say it again until I'm blue in the face, and I say this at when Reade brings me on sales meetings, I say this till I'm blue in the face. We're not here to make people go viral. That is just not our organization. We are a lead trust organization. Now, yes, that will result in lead gen. Absolutely. Consistency. We do old school marketing, right? Like things that work. And it is not just about pinging people until it drives them crazy or get sales. And yes, inevitably, yes, that does work. The consistency of that, of the right things, it will work. But we are not here to make you go viral. It just won't happen. We are all about trust. We want people to look at your brand and say, I really trust that. They're good people. It's them on the screen talking and just talking about their challenges and things like that. All about trusting the brand.
Yep. And that's why we say simple wins. We did a newsletter about this several weeks ago. I think it was back in December, that there's a lot of complicated smart sounding tactics that, frankly, all they do is make the person who said them look smart in the short term. Winning with marketing is about doing simple things very well, consistently. And yes, we are measuring metrics to try to make improvements, incremental improvements over time. But that is simply so we can do those right things extremely well, consistently over time. And keep in mind, free resources can take you only so far. We have a ton of free resources on the Grow Rogue newsletter and on our website. But for those that are really looking to make an intentional up-leveling of their skills, workshops that are customized to you and your team is the way to really make that big difference. We do offer those as well in a number of different areas, so make sure to check that out on our website if interested.